Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Akakadash, double honors and salutations to the elders and apostles of Great Stone Rule Well, to the Akim Akwath, throughout the four corners of the earth, holding on in sincerity and in truth, to the gospel of Mashiach Yahushai with diligence of mind, this Bamnesha, this a camp short lesson for the hopeful elect. Yeah, so the whole world is just in shock and awe as they observe the conflict between the so-called white man, and and the Persians, the kingdom of Esau is basically hell bent on using this conflict to strengthen their positions and try to extend their dominion, to generations to come. And it's a mess. They're trying to control the narrative, but at the end of the day, the damage is being done. All right, so when Esau creates damages, he believes he can use that opportunity to push forth his agenda. They say order upscale. He wants to formulate the next round of so-called policies to strengthen his position to have more dominion. But just like the scriptures, the word of the Lord has already given, his servants, the elect, the heads up, the insight that Esau's rulership is coming to an end, and things are not exactly what they seem with all these so-called alliances that the elites have been trying to hold together. All right, and when the people begin to wake up, they have to generate chaos to destabilize them, and that's what they're doing with this conflict. The people at the top, they have their wealth, they have their security and all that stuff, but the people at the bottom, they don't really have what you call a fortress of protection. They're just at the mercy of their rulers. All right. So the book of Jeremiah, chapter 51, verse 7, says, Babylon had been a golden cup in the Lord's hands that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of our wine, therefore the nations are mad. All right. So you're gonna see more uproars in those Persian countrymen against America's allies, man. Against their government. The people are just gonna rise up, and they're going to be demanding, total separation from Babylon. Okay. I've spoken about this months ago. Man. Almost every country in that region that has a United States military base is a target. Even those countries in Africa, those countries in Southeast Asia, they're all targets for America's enemies, man. So when the people of those nations don't want American bases there, they realize that, those bases are like a ticking time bomb, man. They're like destruction magnets, chaos magnets, man. That's the reason why, those nations don't want American bases because they see themselves as targets, collateral damage in the chess game that these super elites are playing, man. So that's going to further spark the uprisings of the people. Okay, so the madness, man, is going to cause a lot of people to revolt against their government, man, because folks are basically exposed, man, to all these shenanigans, all these deals that the elites make in the dark. and then the people don't have a say in it. All the compromised, what do you call it, compromised dealings, business dealings, is affecting their lives, man. All the crooked policies, crooked legislations, it's affecting those people's lives, and they're not happy about it. So what do you think is going to happen? That spirit of liberation, man, the spirit of anxiety, the spirit of separation, is going to be gaining momentum, man. Folks are just tired of being ruled over by a secretive group of people that's always endangering their safety. And that's what is going to be happening in America, man. All that ICE, protest, man, is going to shift over to protest against the war. You know, Even all these so-called gatekeepers that you have in Congress pretending to be talking for the people. They're just trying to diffuse the situation, but they cannot. You know, the you know the cat is already out of the bag, man. The monkey's already out of the cage. So now, these folks, are waiting, man. The frustration levels are high, and these so-called government, officials, man. They're gonna have to, go into hiding, sooner or later, man, because they've been part of you know, the the crooked dealings, man. To keep the people in the dark. The age of deception is fading away, and now that the truth is coming out. When the e-files, showed up, and then people start to put the pieces together. They start looking at the financial transactions of who's sponsoring whose campaign, who's voting for what bill, who's attending certain events with certain groups. All that stuff, man. It's becoming evident, man. The picture is coming in frame, man. The images is coming in frame. The zoom is in focus. The blur is no longer effective. The chaos is no longer confusing the people. Now they know who the source of their problems are. And, they see it as the so-called political class that's just playing games with the people's, man. Pulling the people's emotions left, right, up, and center. So, the madness of the people, man, that have drunken the Kool-Aid, is going to turn them into a different type of beast, you know, a different type of entity. Yeah, so that's what happens, man, when you create a Frankenstein, man. Frankenstein get a little focus. That's what it is, man. Start to rebel against the so-called elected leaders. That's it, man. So it's gonna be ugly, and that's just what we are looking forward to. The scripture tells you about chaos on the streets of Babylon, and that's just what we're looking forward to seeing. So the book of Proverbs, chapter 1, verse 5, it says, a wise man will hear and will increase learning, and the man of understanding will attain unto wise counsel. Even a fool, when he gets a little bit of knowledge, he knows that he can act upon it. So that's what it's going to be like, for these folks that have been deceived by the political system, by the political machine, and so they're going to have to act on that so-called truth that they've come across, and that's what's going to scare a lot of these politicians to be calling for martial law. All right, and then verse 6 says, to understand the proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark saying. Yeah, so there's nothing else they can do but to stop, coming with the heavy hand of the government against the people. So all that chaos and frustration is an outlet, and that outlet is pointed directly at the so-called politicians. Because they've been a facilitator of the oppressive system and the corruption. They've destroyed lives. They've turned people's psyche upside down. So what happens, man? When people are able to gain a little traction, so they're gonna have to pull that martial law card, man. And then verse 7 says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Yeah, so that's gonna be the fall, of the Babylonian system, man. The lack of fear in the Lord, man. That's just exactly why they have so much instability. Because when the mind, of a person is filled with ideas that's totally against the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Shema Shai, you expect nothing but chaos, and that's what they've sown, and that's what they're gonna have to reap. So when the fear of the Lord is not present, what do you think is gonna happen? Instability, inflation. When the laws and commandments are not regarded, they are not reverenced. America is a byproduct of that. The world is a byproduct of that. So the Kool-Aid of Babylon, the Kool-Aid of rebellion against order, against righteousness, has turned these nations mad. When the people decide that they don't want no part of the madness, all of a sudden, the culprit, is going to have to do something drastic. So that's what we're looking forward to. All right. So the book of Psalms, chapter 7, verse 11 to 16 says, the Most High, all right, the Elohim, judge the righteous, and Elohim is angry with the wicked every day. If he turn not, he will he will whet his sword. He had bent his bow and made it ready. So, what do you think that is for? Is to bring back order. That's what the sword is, man, for judgment. So the wicked, the system of the wicked has to be reined in. Has to be put in check. Has to be contained. That's why the Lord has to wage war against the system of Esau. All right. Now, verse 13 says, he had also prepared for him the instruments of death. He ordained his arrows against the persecutors. All right. So, yeah. So those WMDs, man. They have their purpose, man. Weapons of mass destruction. That's what you see flying across in the Middle East, man. That's what you see, man. That term of WMDs hasn't been used in a long time. So you know, those missiles, man. They're gonna be, they're gonna be, referred to as WMDs. Again and again and again. So that's just how it is, man. Certain terms and phrases have their cycle. So it's just like the old things, man, are coming back to light again. So it's gonna be disastrous for a lot of people, man. A lot of people are gonna be sad and upset that they do not have an answer against all this chaos that they have to face. All right. So, what do you think? The system of Esau is going to turn into. It's going to have to be decimated by the Lord. When the chaos is directed towards Babylon. Verse 14, behold, it travelleth with iniquity, and hath conceived mischief, and brought forth falsehood. Yeah, so when there's no fear of the Lord, this is what happened, man. Falsehood, iniquity, and mischief, man. And then verse 15 says, he had made a pit and digged it, and is fallen into the ditch which he made. So the counsel of Esau is going to make him fall, and it's going to be broken apart. His doctrine of dominance is going to be turned against him. That's why you have the alliances, breaking apart. The alliance of Esau's power structure is fracturing. So folks can talk about oil prices, this oil prices that they expect it to go up. They're gonna make lots of money, from all the price, the price fluctuations. That creates more volatility in the market. You make more money when there's volatility in the market. All right, because there's still oil in other parts of the world that can still be tapped into. The oil in Venezuela is still is still available. The oil in Mexico is still available. The oil of the west coast of Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Equatorial Guinea, all those places, man. It's still there. It's still there. It's still on the market. So, you know what that means? Those oil companies are going to be making a killing. So basically, the war is just a front, to generate more wealth for the people at the top. So that's just how it is, man. The insurance companies are not happy, but hey, it is what it is. They'll have to hedge, hedge their portfolio against chaos like this, man. All right, so that's what you're going to have to deal with, man. Then verse 16 says, his mischief shall return upon his own head, and his violent dealing shall come down upon his own pate. Yeah, so that's just what it is, man. The plans of the elites to have more dominion, to be secure in their wealth, in their fortresses, man. It's going to fracture when the Most High start to pull those strings, the strings of chaos, you know, in a certain direction that the elites do not have control over it anymore, man. Then you're gonna see the panicking, all right. So now you see they have a control over how they want to bring about the chaos. So what do you think is gonna happen when the Most High, interferes with that direction of the chaos? So there's gonna be a lot of scrambling, all right. So that's how powerful the Lord is, man. He's the power that governs over chaos, man. The Lord of war. It's a man of war. So wars, needs chaos. Organized chaos to get the results it desires. All right. So Obadiah 1:7 says, in fact, verse 6, how are the things of Esau searched out, and how are his hidden things sought up? All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. Yeah, so boots on the ground, all that stuff, man. Sooner or later it has to happen. It's the Most High's decree that it happens. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. All right. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound unto thee. There is none understanding in them. Yeah, so it's gonna be chaotic, man. It's gonna be painful for the soldiers, man. And the civilians in those regions, man. where you have boots on the ground, collateral damage. Yeah, so when you have, you know, this exchange of attack, it's gonna be, such a pain, for the people to absorb, man. The people are not gonna be able to absorb the shock. They're just gonna give up the ghost. And the scripture talks about the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard from all the bombardment and all that stuff. So, we know exactly what to expect. We know how to prepare ourselves psychologically, man. Spiritually, it's most important. That's why we have to hold on to the word of the Lord. Hamashak Yahushai, Ba'ashim Kakadash. Yeah, with the approval of Yahweh, because a lot of people are lost. They don't have a clear sense of direction, due to the failure of leadership, man. So, yeah, that's what our people need, man. Our people need deliverance. That's why this gospel has to be preached. All right. So, just get one more precept and just wrap this up. So, the book of Matthew, chapter 12, verse 5, tells you that, let me see, 25. It says, And Yahweh knew their thoughts, and said unto them, Every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. So expect the alliances of Esau to fall apart, because of unrighteous dealings. It's the system of the serpent. So what do you expect? Deception, man. Deception has to be an ingredient that is going to be observed as things fall apart. So whatever happens in Canada, to separate its pact with America, is going to become evident. Whatever pact that the EU has with America, it has to be unraveled at some point in time, because the system of the serpent, the crookedness, the lies, the deceits, the mischief, is going to cause a lot of animosity, man. So all that, you got to play this card to get that card and play this card to get that card. Some FaceTime, because every card on the deck needs some FaceTime. This is at a certain point, man. The decks cannot be shuffled when the time is running out. That's just how sad it is, man. When time is running out, how many how many shufflings can be presented. So that's how it is, man. The game is almost up. So the cards are on the table. So what's gonna happen, man? The dealer, yeah, the dealer is just watching the players, man. What's next, man? Time's up, man. The Most High is giving them some time. you know, to show their cards, man, to see what they got, and that's just how it is, man. They cannot go any further, man. Time's up, game's up, man. The bar is closed. Yeah, so that's how messed up it's gonna be for them, man. So the losses are going to compound, because of hey, it is what it is, man. The business gotta wrap up. And then verse 26, Matthew 12:26, and if Satan cast out Satan, he's divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? So the adversaries are divided against each other. So what do you expect? When the level of deception starts to rear its head, that the troops don't even know what to do anymore, man, because the system, the operation has been compromised. So when the battle plans have been compromised, what do you think the troops are gonna do? They're gonna have to figure out a way to get out of there. So you're gonna hear lots of soldiers going AWOL, man. AWOL, AWOL, AWOL. Yeah, so it's gonna be ugly. It's gonna be ugly. So that's the point of this lesson, man. It's gonna be horrible. It's gonna be horrible, and that's one thing we haven't really been talking about as we do lessons, man. Desertion. Desertion is gonna be a hot topic. When the military man and women begin to forget about it, man. Leave it behind and just walk away. That's what it is, man. So they'll have to flee, man. Flee the zones of conflict. So who knows, man? Who knows how the government's gonna respond when you have thousands of soldiers going AWOL. So, Baratza, been edified, and Yahabashima Shabrakatam, Barashim Kakadash, and we just gotta be prepared spiritually, man, because uncertainty, it's not good for investments of Esau. He wants to be certain that he's gonna have the upper hand, but the Most High has taken away that element of him being certain. All right, the time of his demise is at hand, and the Lord is going to make it evident. Shalom.